Good afternoon, everybody. How are we? Are we good? Are you good? Excellent. Good. Well, this is nice and quiet, isn't it? And it's actually triggered an idea that's sort of been sitting with me over the past few weeks, and that is to start going a little bit deeper with my story. So, of course, the aims of Roam to Home are to share my story and keep men alive by talking, and you can find out quite a lot about my journey and my story over my 32 years on my website or on the media section of my website, where I've been interviewed on a couple of podcasts. So if you're into your podcast, you can go and check those out. But for those of you who aren't into your podcasts and aren't into sitting down and reading a website, as many of us aren't these days, I thought it would be a really good idea to start doing these mini series on sharing different parts of my story, and they're not going to be any more than 5 minutes each, and I'm not going to try and take up too much of your time, and I'm going to try and break it down into different sections, starting at the beginning, and we're going to call this one, the first one, my pre-uni days. So this is my story, the pre-uni days. Enjoy. Okay, so 32 years ago. Don't worry, we're not going there. Anyway, actually no, let's go there. I was born on the 15th of May 1985 and grew up in East Sussex in a small town called Helsham, but quite honestly I felt like home was split between Helsham, Eastbourne, a small village called East Tathley, and Ringmer, which is where I went to secondary school. So I basically spent my youth kicking around those four places mainly, and having a great time, always, with some great mates, an amazing family, with my big brother, my big sister, and just always being active, From a really, really young age, we were doing everything. We were playing frisbee, we were doing football, we were playing tennis, we were doing judo, we were driving cars on my dad's lap from the age of 3 years old, hence the love of go-karting, if you guys caught that video this week. And we're just doing everything, and if it wasn't with my family doing those sort of mainstream sports, then I'd be out there with Tom and Jason and James and all my best mates from Ringmer and college, with James and Sam and Ed and Pete and all these guys larking about, and all the time, either whether it's oh my gosh, there's too many to name, but along the cookie trail with our mountain bikes, or climbing trees, falling out of trees, building dens, just getting muddy, diving in and out of ponds and lakes, and driving cars around different fields that we've been lucky enough to have been granted access to. Just always being really physically active, We've always had a lot of energy, a lot of really good positive energy with my friendship base, and it's just been a wonderful, wonderful upbringing. And I've got to thank my mother for just everything that she's done for our family, because we haven't had the smoothest ride over the years for different reasons, but she has been the glue that has pulled our whole family together, both our immediate family and our extended family, and I can't thank her enough for it. And our home in Helsham, it's a pretty humble home, but for me, growing up, it felt like this big, I don't know, like playground almost, because she turned our patio into a tennis court, she turned the small length of our garden into a basketball court, whilst doing laps of the back garden path. So I think the running probably kicked in at a very young age as well, but I'm super grateful to my mother for everything she provided for us. And with my friendship base as well, particularly with Tom and Jason and James, when I think back to the weeks upon weeks that I spent at Tom's house, playing computer games, just playing football in the back garden, tennis, badminton, frisbee, golf, all this stuff, we were never sat still, never ever sat still. We were always doing one thing or another, and it's been pretty magic. So I went to East Tathley Primary School, which is a very small village in East Sussex. There were 8 of us in our year, so we had 2 years in the same classroom, so it's a really, really tiny little primary school. Started playing the drums from a very young age as well, and had a wonderful time there. And then I went off to Ringmer Community College, and it was at Ringmer that my head of PE became my biggest inspiration at the time, a gentleman called Mr. Andy Hulks, and he was a superhero to me. And I can't tell you the amount of quiet confidence that he installed in me from a very, very young age. And if there was ever a glimmer of me progressing in one sport, he would really push me to crack on with it, whether it was being the captain of my football team, or playing tennis, even rugby. I tried a little bit of rugby. So yeah, really thankful to him. And then Glenn Murdoch and Claire Baker has done a wonderful job there as well, and James Coulthard is carrying the flame at the moment, and I know he's doing a great job. We've done a little bit of work together with me speaking at Ringmer over the past year. So I had a wonderful 5 years at Ringmer Community College, playing drums in the guitar concert with my mate Dave Cottrell, and just always being active, every lunch break playing football. I was lucky enough to go on my first ski trip at Ringmer as well, again with thanks to my mum, and went out to Austria and fell in love with skiing, which planted the seed for me to become a skiing instructor down the line. And I was just I spent a magical 5 years there in East Sussex and Ringmer, expressing my creative side and generally playing sports. And then I went off to Sussex Downs College in Eastbourne. Again, had an amazing friendship base there with Laura and Lucy and Sam and Ed and James and Pete, and all these guys were just absolutely fantastic, and Sasha and Matt, and we had a wonderful couple of years there, again being very active, riding motorbikes as well in our spare time, and generally just getting muddy, active, camping, swimming, all the rest of it. And then I did a foundation year in art and design, again expressing my creative side, and at that point I couldn't really decide which path to go down with my career, really call it a career. It's either going to be the creative side or the sports side, and at that time I was obsessed with drawing stadiums, and just on that one simple notion I decided to see what a career would be like in architecture, which was a bit of a daft move, to be honest. I went up to Lincoln University, dropped out after 4 months I think it was, and then blew the rest of my student loan that year on going skiing, and did a half a season, and yeah, it was a bit of a funny one. Came back to the UK and then applied for a place at Brighton University in sport and leisure management, which I started in 2005. So that pretty much brings you up to speed with my pre-uni days. And to talk about my character and my nature during all of that time, which I think you probably gathered, was pretty energetic, pretty enthusiastic, just getting up early, going to bed late, just because we were mucking around so much and having so much fun. And that pretty much took me up to the age of 21 when I started at Brighton. I definitely had a bit of a funny mix, I guess, growing up, between this quiet confidence and like this underlying gut feeling of not being accepted as well. It's a bit of a strange one, but that never really got the better of me. I just quietly went about my days, did my thing, and just tried to channel all my energy into playing as much sport and having as much fun as possible, to be honest. So there we go. I promised I wouldn't go over 5 minutes. I'm probably up to about 7 minutes already. So that is part one of my story, the pre-uni days, and I look forward to picking this up where we leave off with number 2, which will be, you guessed it, my uni days. Cheers guys, see you later.